let's have a look at the recently showcased Night Goblins. A great little mischievous race of goblins.
Sega.
Goblins are certainly mean creatures, but their black-clad cousins, the Night Goblins, are downright malevolent. Leaving their subterranean lairs only at night, or when the sun is shrouded by clouds or some gloom spell, the Night Goblins excel at launching lightning raids under the cover of darkness. Night Goblins cultivate and harvest many different varieties of fungi, which vary in their effects and toxicity. Shamans...
So, just a few words about fungi. The main uses of fungi and mushrooms for the Night Goblins are in magic, increasing the potency of their magic for their shamans. For Night Goblin fanatics that ingest a special brew that you could sort of compare that to the legend of the berserkers, the Norse berserkers going into rage by ingesting mushrooms, which is more fiction than fact, but in the Warhammer world, of course, fact and fiction take the backseat to fantasy. So mushrooms are also an important source of food in their subterranean lairs, and mushrooms squigs are also in a symbiotic relationship with mushrooms, I believe. They also use squigs as war beasts, whereas normal goblins use wolves. They ride wolves. Forest goblins ride spiders, and night goblins make extensive use of squigs, squig herds, squig hoppers, and squig sort of bodyguards like the Gobla of the legendary Skarsnik warlord. And I hope squigs is something that we'll see in Total War Warhammer, because they are great little units, a lot of fun, and that's what the greenskin should be all about: ridiculous, unpredictable, powerful units.
The most powerful strains for their own dark potions, and one such draft is brewed from the madcap mushroom. In the heat of battle, shroom-fueled Night Goblin fanatics are dosed up, armed with balls and chains, and released from the ranks in a spinning, gibbering dance of death that barely distinguishes friend from foe.
So in Warhammer, in the game, the fanatics will be released in a random direction. So once an enemy comes close to a unit that contains a fanatic, a number of fanatics will charge out, but you won't have complete control over them, and that's something I hope we'll see in the Warhammer game. So it might be something that requires micro. So let's say that you bait an enemy unit with a cheap unit of Night Goblins. Then the enemy has to consider, okay, will there be a fanatic inside of that unit? If so, how am I going to respond? Am I going to send a fast cavalry unit in, pull it out, and then pull out the fanatic and gamble that the fanatic is going to spin into its own troops? Or are the Night Goblins going to do the same? Are they going to be pushed up towards important enemy units, fanatics released, pulled back out? So if they decide to bring this mechanic into the game, I think it's going to make for a fun way of using cheap Night Goblin units.
Woe betide any dwarf lord who leads his throng along the underway ill-prepared, for the darkness may hold a nasty surprise.
The models look great. Really cool. And this does indeed suggest that the Night Goblin fanatic does cause friendly fire, that he's just area of effect indiscriminate, and he really has to be in order to be the unit it's supposed to be.
Subscribe now to find out more on the Greenskins, with the grand unveiling of the Total War Warhammer campaign map coming soon.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting, seeing the map. But just a few more words about the Night Goblins. The Night Goblins could warrant... They could either be subunits under the Orc and Goblin banner, or, and I hope this is the case, they do have enough units for them to be a separate sub-faction. So you could have, for example, Orcs and Goblins combined, and then you could have Orcs, Goblins, Night Goblins. I hope that's the case, that you're able to field dedicated Goblin armies, because that's some of the some of the variety within the greenskin race is that, or the greenskin races, is that you're able to field forest goblin armies, you're able to field goblin armies, you're able to field standard orc armies, black orc armies, mixed armies, and all of those have a sort of a distinct appeal, because with a night goblin army you could rely heavily on magic, on squigs, on your fanatics, but you won't have any good, really good infantry, whereas your monsters and fanatics can do a lot of damage, but they are very unpredictable. So I hope that's something they decide to bring into the game, that night goblins and indeed all of the greenskins have the potential to be extremely powerful if everything works as it's supposed to. But I hope they bring that element of unpredictability and unreliability into the game, so both players will have to sort of plan for the unplannable, where your fanatics might cause havoc in the enemy ranks, or they might just end up wrecking your own units. Would be something quite new in the Warhammer experience for Total War, if that is the case, but I really hope it is, that greenskin flavor is brought into the game, but it remains to be seen. And quite anxious to see how the campaign map looks as well. So a few people have been a bit apprehensive about the lack of factions in the Total War Warhammer game. But if they create the rosters in a way that they're fleshed out enough, then within the greenskin faction, the Orc and Goblin faction, you could have the experience of playing with Goblin armies, Orc armies, combined armies, creating a lot more variety than you would get out of a standard Total War faction. And I hope that's the case. Strength and honor.